What is up, guys? It is Tony here, and today we are doing the first episode of my new series called How To Photo. And the series is basically a series where I'll be doing things like critiques on my photography, I'll be doing some tips for people who are beginners, and I'll also be doing some sorts of tutorials on how to touch up photos in Lightroom and how to edit photos in Photoshop, and all of that jazz. So today we're going to be taking a look at some of my more recent work. This is some photos I took at a park in my city, and I basically went ahead and took these photos, touched them up, and now I have them here, and I'm going to critique some of my photos pretty harshly and some of them a little bit less harshly, but I also want you guys to critique them in the comments section. Tell me what you don't like about them or what you do like about them. Try to be constructive, and hopefully I can improve myself as a photographer, and hopefully you can learn some things from my critiquing. So, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first photo we have here is obviously of a peacock, and you know, it's not the worst photo in the world. The focus is, from what I can see, right where I want it to be, right on his head. The colors are beautiful, and overall, it's not a bad picture. The background could have been blown out a little bit more, if you ask me. The bench is very colorful and kind of detracts away from the color of the peacock. So there's two things I could have done to make this a better photo. For one, I probably should have got lower and closer to the peacock. I had a lot of room. I actually was shooting at 69 millimeters, so I could have got a lot closer. I mean, that's almost 90 millimeters. Maybe even more than that with the, because I'm using a crop sensor camera. So I probably could have got a bit closer. I probably could have blown out the background a bit more, but it was probably just laziness by me or just maybe not thinking at the moment. But then I get another shot that's relatively better. The background's a lot more blown out. You know, the colors look very vibrant, and the overall sharpness of the image is great. Once again, the other thing is just this bench. This bench does bother me. But for some people, it's not that big of a distraction. Now, here's a photo that I would say is better than the other two, but still has its problems. It's very sharp on the bird, and all around it just looks great. I actually feel like it's a little bit sharper on the body than it is on the head. And that's usually a problem you get with autofocusing, especially on objects like this where the head's poked out, but it's not as large as the body, so the focus goes to the body first and then the head's out of focus. But you want the eyes in focus whenever you're taking a shot of an animal or a human being or whatever you're taking a shot of. You really want to focus on the head, which is the main focal point. But overall, the background's blurred out very well, maybe a little bit too bright here. But, you know, this isn't too bad of a shot. All three of these shots are relatively good. I would say this one's probably the best of the bunch in terms of intriguing. You know, it's more intriguing and more interesting. It almost feels like the bird's 3D. It almost feels like it's going to pop out, at least for me. I feel like it's moving a bit, and the photo kind of looks 3D with the amount of separation. And this is probably because I shot, at 135 millimeters, so we got a lot more depth of field. But all around, it is, you know, pretty good set of images right there. Here's probably one of my favorite images from the whole set. I really like the composition. I like how all the lines are nice and even. You know, that's a typical architecture type of shot. I also like that the sun is coming in perfectly up towards this, you know, rule of thirds area, top right or top left corner. And I like how the leaves are coming in, but they're just out of focus. It kind of leads in perfectly to the subject, which is obviously this, what would you call it, like a gazebo hutch type of thing? Or not hutch. I'm talking about hutch. I'm talking about hutch for some reason. But gazebo type of thing. And, you know, it's a really good composition. I think it looks great. You know, you could nitpick a few things like down here, what's all this on the ground? It's probably, you know, bird excrement. But you could probably touch that up in Photoshop. I think it's a really cool image. I feel like the leaves are covering too much of the gazebo on top. But overall, I really like this image. I think it's a great shot. The exposure was right on, and everything looks really nice and balanced. If you look in the background, there's a lot of cool, like, lines and background leading backwards with all the trees. It's a cool little shot. This is a shot that, you know, to be honest, looks great. It's the type of shot that, I don't know, it's just a cool shot. Like, if I wanted to advertise this park, because this park does cost money to get into, this would be a cool shot to give. And right here it looks great, but when you scroll out a bit to the full image, there's this thing down here. There's a, I don't know why it just changed, but there's a plastic bag here. Why does it keep changing? I don't like this. There's a plastic bag here that's just on the floor, and for me, that takes away from the image. Like when you go into the full image, let me try to do this now. No, I can't go into the full image. There we go. This like random white dot down here, and especially these patches of dirt that are kind of dug up a bit, that just takes away from the image. So there's a few ways you could fix that. For one, I could have moved forward a little bit more, or maybe did a landscape shot. But you know, overall, it's not a terrible shot. I think it's an interesting one, and it could have just been a little bit better if I took extra time out. Now, this is a shot that really I don't have much to complain about. Maybe you guys have something to complain about in the comments. But this is an awesome shot. I got on the ground, risked getting myself covered with, once again, bird excrement. And, man, this is a cool shot. You got the blades of grass leading in, a little bit out of focus. And then when you zoom in here, I said, the sharpness is great. Right on the eyes, right on the head, right on the beak. The colors are beautiful. It's just a really cool shot. I mean, the shadows are really good. The lighting is perfect. I didn't lose any detail on the feathers. And in the background, there's really no harsh colors or bright lights that really take away from this. And the isolation is great. It's shot at 135 millimeters at 1/400th of a, 1/400th of a second. It's very well done. I think this is an awesome shot. It's probably the winning shot of the whole lot. Now this shot I put in because it's just bad. This is kind of what a lot of people seem to make fun of digital photographers who haven't used film before. This is a problem a lot of us have, where we just take shots that really probably won't amount to anything, but we don't care because we have unlimited amounts of shots. Well, not unlimited, but close to it with 32 and 64 gigabyte cards. Some people even have 128 gigabyte cards. Yes, this is kind of just a shot I took just to take. I don't know why. There's really nothing special about it. And there's so many things wrong with it. For one, I mean, it's just a very boring, murky, terrible shot. The top is all blown out too much. This lens flare looks ridiculous. I don't even know what's going on here with this. I was shooting into the sun in a really weird manner where it was pretty much bound to lens flare. This is just a bad shot altogether. Just wanted to show you what a bad shot looks like. Now, this shot isn't bad. I would consider this shot okay. It has cool, like, you know, this kind of like, it feels like an S almost, like where it goes, you know, left, right, and then inward, and you kind of see like the water going this way, which it does go that way. And it's just kind of cool the way the tree's centered here. Maybe not following the rule of thirds, you know, perfectly, but I kind of like the leading line up to this with the reflections and then the clouds in the background. I think it's just a really cool shot for, you know, just the park, just to show what's going on in the park. I kind of feel like it's a little boring. It's kind of like a typical type of shot that someone would take. But at the same time, I think it's, you know, well done. It's well executed. Here's a shot that, you know, also once again is one of those boring, typical types of shots. But I feel like this was a lot. I remember timing this out perfectly. I remember going, okay, I want these ducks to be on the bottom. I want the ducks, or I don't know what, I think these are just regular like pigeons or something like that. I want all the birds flying in the background, and I want like all the ripples coming in and things like that. I wanted it to be timed perfectly, and I was sitting there waiting for the shot. I didn't like burst tons of shots until this happened. I was waiting for the right shot, and I took it, and when I looked at it, it was perfect. This is exactly what I envisioned. And it's really just, you know, goes to show that you have to wait for the shot sometimes. I was sitting there crouched down, and it was just really annoying sitting there waiting for the shot, but eventually I got it. And, you know, it's a good shot. I don't think it's the best, but just because I got it and I waited for it and I was patient, it really sticks out to me, and I think it's a decent shot. Now, here's the photo. That probably could have been the best photo I've ever taken, but there's one problem with it. Like, I love this photo. Everyone who sees this photo says it's incredible. But there's one problem with it that bugs me so much, and it's the focus that bothers me. So let me try to zoom in here. You'll notice that down here, things appear a bit sharper than on the bench. I'm not sure where the focus was, honestly. It looks like it must have been down here. So what I think happened here was I was on manual focus, and it was very bright out, by the way. It's hard to see it in these photos, but it was very, very bright out. It was blindingly bright. You'll probably see that in the next photo a bit. But yeah, it was very bright, and it was difficult for me to see where my focus was in live view. So I switched into my viewfinder, and my viewfinder was even harder to see where the focus was. So it was just, I don't know, it was very difficult to see the focus, which is why I pulled out my LCD viewfinder magnifier thing later on, and that's why I got some better shots in the next few ones. But man, if this focus was a little bit better, this would have been one of the best shots I've ever taken. But still, it's a usable photo. Like, the focus isn't terrible on here, probably because I'm at f4.5, and the focus was probably like right here. So it was pretty close. It's not like terrible. In fact, it looks relatively sharp. I kind of wish, his shoes look kind of out of focus a bit. But this is an awesome shot. I mean, just the composition, the way it's, set up. I was thinking about this for a while, and I got it. I got the shot I wanted, and the composition is great. Maybe the focus is a bit off, like I said, which bothers me, but it's not too off. It's not terrible. And I'm not taking like a portrait, so it's not as important, if that makes sense. Whenever you're taking a landscape shot like this, it's not as important. Here's a typical landscape shot. I shot directly into the sun. Now, this is something you're not supposed to do, especially when you have a non-professional lens. When you have a typical lens like I do, you probably shouldn't shoot into the sun. But what I did here is I really made sure it wouldn't lens flare. I lined it up perfectly. You can see this nice line here where all the lights are coming in, and it's composed relatively good. It's just a typical shot. It's nothing too good. One thing I'd like to mention is that you'll see this even more later. It doesn't really look perfectly lined. It looks a little tilted. The line here just looks like it's at an angle. And there's another shot right here where, oh boy, it's crooked. It's a little crooked to the left. This line here that I'm about to draw is about what the horizon should have been. So it should have been tilted a little bit more. It's just not a good shot in terms of the way I tilted it. It makes everything look like the hill's going down this way, when in reality this is a downhill coming down this way to the right. But it's a cool shot with the lights coming in. I like shots where there's just light coming down on the what's it called? I can't think of it, like a field or something like that. So it's a decent shot. And then this is a cool shot. This is a shot, like the last bench shot, except without a person sitting in it. And it's cool. It's like this lonely bench sitting there. Kind of tells a story in a way, a little bit. Not really, but still. The focus is spot on. The composition is okay. The only thing I have to critique about this is that I wish I zoomed out more. I wish I moved back more and I zoomed out more. I was at 27 millimeters, which is kind of a weird one. I probably should have been at 18. I probably should have moved back a little bit more. But, it's still a great photo. I think this is an awesome photo. And the last photo is another awesome photo. The way the lighting looks great, the composition looks pretty good. I think I should have moved the camera a little bit more to the maybe left. But I think the reason why I didn't move more to the left is there was a lot of crappy stuff going on over here. But overall, this is good composition. If you notice what was going on at the time, it was difficult for me to get better than this. The one thing I wanted to point out, though, is the lens flare. I mean, this is kind of a bad lens flare. It's right on top of the subject. So one thing I would like to mention is just really when you see a lens flare, try to find an angle that doesn't flare as bad. It's very important to do that. Sometimes you can deal with the lens flare and make it add to the image, but in this image I think it took away from it. So that's pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed this critique of my own photos and you want to see more like this in the future, please comment below. I really want to do more of these, and I have some other great albums I could critique, and it'll probably motivate me to take more photos in the future and improve on my skills, and hopefully it'll help you guys as well. So that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed the video, once again, like and comment, and I'll see you guys next time.